The year is 2020 in France. The start of a new decade brings new challenges and new enemies to the French Fifth Republic. Yellow Vest protests have been tearing apart the nation for nearly a year, and the holidays only provided a brief respite from this. President Emmanuel Macron did his very best in an effort to soothe the Yellow Vests as they came out once again in force during the height of the pandemic. Balancing not just fighting the pandemic, but fighting the protesters, was further upset by the upcoming elections. Marine Le Pen, leader of the National Rally, had announced her candidacy for President of France. The Yellow Vests continued to roar. Negotiations with the government had fallen through, and police forces crushed the protests nationwide, utilizing the media to smear the protesters, all of which gravely angered the people and reduced the popularity of Macron leading into 2021. Continued suffering from COVID-19 led the sitting president's administration to further reduce in popularity. Many millions of working-class voters who were once supporters of Macron flipped their support to the up-and-coming third-place party, Melenchon, and the French left. With Le Pen soaring in the polls, the left formed a coalition. The new Popular Front began to gain in the polls as Melenchon started a campaign of his own, pulling on the dissatisfaction of the workers and fear-mongering against the National Rally as a neo-fascist force. Practically every leftist force had joined together for this new coalition, and their sudden popularity in the polls soared from 20 to 35%, led the establishment Macron and National Rally's Le Pen to panic. As if things could not possibly get worse, the military surrounded Paris and nailed demands Martin Luther style to the doors of government buildings around the city, all while America and the stock market crumbled. Macron fled the city for a time, while Le Pen was in a secret meeting with the military where she refused to cave to their demands. News leaked to the public the attempted military coup that took place, and anger further set in. The new Popular Front obtained a majority of the vote as the polls closed in 2022, leading Melenchon to form a government with 51% of the vote barely squeezing by to obtain a majority. Just prior to Melenchon's election, Macron had maneuvered France into the enviable position of leader of NATO. However, Melenchon had no intention of remaining within NATO, being a friend of China and the Russians. Melenchon had no intention of going to war with Russia for any reason, regardless of who they invaded. With his slight majority, Melenchon pressed through reforms, creating a new constitution to establish the French Popular Republic, or the French Sixth Republic, and going yet further by punishing the military and removing many figures from their positions for disloyalty. The new French flag had upon it a red star, and as Melenchon officially approached China and recognized its claim to the island of Taiwan, his next step was to leave NATO. Enter General Guillaume Vernard. About 30 days before the decision was to be made in the French Parliament, army units under Guillaume Vernard's direction seized government buildings nationwide and arrested Melenchon, placing him under house arrest indefinitely during the crisis. General Vernard was loyal to the Republican idea, but he was loyal to the European order as well, and he would not stand by as France withdrew from NATO and left Europe to its own devices. Russia was preparing. Day by day, their forces grew stronger, and day by day, Melenchon drew closer to Moscow, a communist Moscow. To replace the French Popular Republic came the Government of National Defense, a military junta with limited democratic elements. There was a promise for a return to elections. Protests would attempt to form and be dispersed by the military. The rise of French socialism had been cut down by General Vernard. As he took the mantle of Caesar, he would be a leader during the Republic's time of crisis. Under the direction of the military government, all the demands nailed to the doors just 2 years prior came into effect. Service in the army, being made mandatory, withdrawal from NATO's integrated command, and the economy being retooled following the Gaullist economic policy of dirigism. Did I pronounce that? Dirigism. Dirigism?
Dirigism.
Yes. Vernard had done all he felt he could do to prepare the military and economy for the coming onslaught by Soviet forces. As Soviet forces poured into Ukraine, all of Europe got butterflies in their stomach. Some afraid, some amped up, some trying to pretend like what was sure to happen wouldn't. A skirmish along the border in Poland sealed the fate of Europe. Soviet forces were descended upon by NATO. NATO, full of nations ill-prepared for the eventuality, fettered by their own government's infighting and the apathy of their people. Only France alone held the position of a nation truly prepared. Our forces rapidly deployed to the border, but Soviet strength had been vastly underestimated. The border would not hold for long. Now, before we jump into the first war of the video, let's do a little bit of self-promotion. That's right, today's sponsor is me. Why is it so bright? Today's sponsor is me, and honestly, I mean, what is fair to say? I've got a Discord now. You need an invite code to join. I'm gonna put that on screen now. I would really appreciate it if you like my content to hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. We're close to hitting 2,000 subscribers, and we likely will by the end of the month, but it'd be cool if we could get well past it by the end of the month. Just need to shout out my channel, remind you that the buttons are in fact there because it apparently helps with the analytics a bit. Apparently. So without further interruption, your regularly scheduled programming returns. This was the great crusade that NATO was formed for. Nearly 80 years in the making, a Soviet horde poured into Ukraine. French forces quickly came to respond, but how well would they hold up? With NATO largely unprepared, the collapse of America left a void in NATO's defensive preparedness. Only 4 years have passed for Europe to ready itself. Has this been enough time, not just for Europe, but for the societies to come together and realize truly the gravity of the situation they were left in? The answer might shock you. The first goal was to take down the Republic of Moldova, which had willingly flipped into the Russian sphere during an election. Closing Moldova before the Russians could link up to it was paramount, as it gave them an open door into the Balkans, something we heavily wanted to avoid, if at all possible. For the most part, this was successful. Only a few Moldovan forces retreated into Russian territory, but the Soviets did quickly enter Bessarabia and begin to threaten the Balkans, as well as entering western Ukraine quite quickly. This would wind up being one of the few victories during the war, with few others able to be claimed. Soviet forces would solidify and only gain ground from here. Despite our limited offensive against Kaliningrad, we were pushed back again, and with the fall of Bulgaria, Turkey pulled out of NATO. It seemed our defeat was inevitable, as Soviet forces stormed into Hungary, and Warsaw was under threat. This did not mean it was over. We would hold out to the absolute best of our abilities. Our dedication to holding the line only cost us thousands of more lives. The war would end anyway. NATO was bought maybe 2 more weeks, at the expense of thousands of lives. Fighting was pointless. Surrender was issued. Poland partitioned, and much of the Eastern Bloc restored. Today, France's pride was sheathed. We had to look inward, the entire alliance did, at our failures, and to bury the dead. NATO's situation would take very little time to deteriorate. It began with the Golden Dawn coup in Greece, followed by a civil war. Then the Spanish powder keg lit up again. Then Germany experienced a military coup. Britain's king took executive authority over the UK, and finally, General Vernard's Republican dictatorship fractured under its own pressure. The self-proclaimed Caesar became yet another Ptolemy in the history of Europe. Leading opposition and trying to cling to power, France quickly was consumed by radicals from the left and right, identitarian revolts, and a new military government. General de Villers had led the war from the front and watched Vernard mismanage it at every step. Taking his loyal military and his veterans north, he began a war against the central government, allying with the identitarian regionalists of Alsace and becoming a hub for far-right ideologues to rally against their enemies across France. Crossing the Rubicon, France's fate would be decided in the crossfire. With General de Villers' power finally consolidated over France after a short but still grueling civil conflict, Europe was still in tatters. The French emergency government of de Villers now possessed under it the broad range of the French far right. As Europe was trending towards fascist and ultra-militarist governments, it was negotiated and agreed to cede government to the moderate fascists until a proper council could be convened. Ivan Benedetti headed this government as the self-proclaimed Duce, emulating Mussolini at every step he could. He quickly became ridiculed and found detractors among one of France's most premier right-wing groups, the Bloc Identitaire. The Identitarians are a movement with origins in France, but links to every part of Europe. It is under the Identitarians that France will find its glory. Not under this Benedetti upstart, but what exactly is Identitarianism? Identitarianism can vary, but it is generally corporatist, nationalist, and regionalist. More specifically, it espouses localism and ethno-pluralism, seeing Europe as one people of many languages and cultural identities. Strengthening these and banding them together as one is the great idea of the Identitarian movement. They want to found a pan-European state, while also promoting lost or declining regionalist identities such as, but not limited to, Corsican, Alsatian, Breton, Venetian, Lombard, Occitanian, and others. Some, like Camus, would see a pan-European state come to be. Others, like the Bonapartists, would hijack the movement to renew the Napoleonic age. But the former National Rally official, Jordan Bardella, had a grander idea. Always more radical than his close political friend and former ally Marine Le Pen, Bardella envisioned a neo-Roman revival, utilizing France as a vessel to unify the entire Latin world and then to go beyond. Casting the moderate national rally to the fire and putting his lot in with the identitarians, this young 30-year-old firebrand had broad appeal, fiery speeches, and energy, and his previous establishment ties gave him the military's approval. The ever-watchful eye of de Villers cautious to hand total power to any far-right figure. With the backing of the military, the Identitarian caucus forces Benedetti to resign just a few months into his rule. The young Bardella taking the reins means Identitarianism will take a pan-Latin, neo-Roman flavor. With the reins in his hands, France will speed towards a path of reviving the ancient Western Roman Empire. Any good empire needs a stable economy beneath it. The war had ruined the French economy. It was necessary to detach France from the euro and rebuild the franc. Establishing a gold standard would provide the currency stability, and banning inflation would further ensure that the decadent policies of the liberals could not be repeated here. Never another budget deficit, never another debt owed. But it wasn't just the economy that had to be stabilized. Bardella had been part of the pre-war government. He knew it wasn't a lack of commanding ability. He knew de Villers had the skills to deliver victory. But the new Rome needed a proper legion for its centurions to do well. Expanding the available manpower, tightening the training regimen, and establishing updated doctrines. Finally, approaching our friends. As Germany was consolidating its grip as a new leader for the European Pact of Steel, we were handling Mediterranean affairs. Spain was in pieces and losing to a communist revolution. Meanwhile, Franco-Freda's Italy had restored its kingdom. Identitarian ideology became rooted in Italian governments, and Bardella saw fit to hold a Franco-Italian summit in Monaco. It went well, the delegates agreeing on many things, even a future confederation of Latins. From there, the Bern Initiative was negotiated and enacted. An invasion of Switzerland planned, but postponed, while the French army brought order to Hispaniola.
Legio, Aeterna! Aeterna! Victrix! Legio, Aeterna! Aeterna! Victrix! Legio, Aeterna! Aeterna! Victrix!
After the reclamation of Hispaniola, Switzerland was promptly dealt with, and the Latin language was revived as a way to bridge the gap between the new tri-language organization of the French state, encompassing Spanish, Portuguese, as well as many smaller groups such as the Basque. Latin was a dead language, belonging to all of us, a part of our shared past worth reclaiming, but implementing Latin as a way to foment a pan-Latin brotherhood was the smart thing to do. Rather than press French on all our brethren, this reform alone would not be enough. Rome did not thrive because of Rome itself. In its height, it thrived because the regions did, because Gaul and Hispaniola and Illyria all were self-governing. Identitarianism believes in the power of decentralized authorities. A restructured bureaucracy was necessary to ensure our expanding territory could cope with the growth. To fend off corruption and bad influences, the bureaucracy is carefully crafted to ensure it works as a well-oiled machine. Crowning a new pope to replace the current pope was, while controversial, a necessary move. The Catholic Church has been liberalizing for years, and the vocal critique of the identitarians and other right-wing movements of Europe led to a degeneration of the religious heart of Europe. With the declaration of Pope Innocentius XIV in Provence, a force was sent to Rome to forcibly uproot Pope Francis. With the removal of Francis, Italy and France ruled Rome as a condominium, declaring to be the capital of the Latin Empire, a state France and Italy were both working on formalizing currently. The final declaration of the Empire of all Latins came just days before the Pact of Steel was set to move on the Soviet Union once again. The Latin Empire had unified the Western Roman lands once again. During the war, the Italian army would be formally integrated as part of the new Latin army. Jordan Bardella was a new Augustus. Finally, after so long, Rome had been truly redeemed again. But a great struggle still laid ahead for the new Rome. The Rattles-Führer had strengthened Germany. The Pact of Steel now stood greater than the Soviets. While Grudenin's socialist technocrats pulled the Soviets forward into a new age, they lapsed on their armed forces, barely keeping up with the industrial and military development of their Western adversaries. Latin forces poured across Central Europe, linking up with the Germans for a great trial against the communist beast. It's not every day that you proclaim ultimate victory over your enemies. The Russians are in a position where they will never threaten Europe again. But Europe might threaten Europe. And there are yet still other threats. The shadow of Nazism in Germany has given way to ultra-nationalist monarchism. This Prussian revanchist from the old House of Rus wishes to take from us the Alsatians, to divide up our new Rome and to declare itself hegemon of Europe once again. They deprived us of our rightful Illyria and Thrace and our brothers in Romania, setting up puppet regimes all the way to Nizhny Novgorod. It is our duty to liberate our brothers and retake our ancient territories. Joining our list of enemies, the ghost of Gaddafi, the pan-Arab socialist people's Jamahiriya that has consolidated North Africa, leads the Islamic world from Tripoli. Many a great former Roman lands lie within their holds: Anatolia, Carthago, Egypt. If we are today to fight another pan-continental war, there is no power joined in this three-way battle more prepared and capable than the empire of all Latins. Jordan Augustus Bardella will see the Latins reclaim all our lost lands and more. Ave Invictus Augustus Bardella! The alliances are made, the troops are set up. We knew we couldn't trust a German any further than we could throw them. And now we will soon be joined in battle. For those of you wondering what the template is, here it is. The first phase of the war began slow. Our Balkan holdings in Albania and Dalmatia were threatened. Romania was quickly overran. We did our best to desperately hold the areas, but we could not save Romania in time. The Balkan front would be a dedication for a long time, with most of the Western front remaining dormant. However, this didn't mean we didn't still make gains. Saving Romania first is no longer an option. Activate Operation Caesar. We will be crossing the Rhine, and we will be staying this time. We have felled any German chance at having dominion over this continent. Now we need only reclaim the southern half of our empire. The fast progress in Anatolia and in the Caucasus scared the Parthians into joining. Rightfully so. I would be scared on the receiving end of this, too. Old Parthia would quickly regret having crossed us once again, our ancient foe vanquished in mere weeks. Our initial naval landing in Algeria had been met with trouble, but we had another one on the way, and our troops were soon to cross the Suez Canal. Hey everybody, thanks for watching, man. I tell you what, I released this on a Monday instead of a Sunday. I don't know how I can sleep for 16 hours straight, but I'm gonna set an alarm next week, good lord. But hey, I hope you were happy with the finished product, because I tell you what, I was looking forward to making this one, and I do hope that it came out well. Either way, I shall see you all next week, and if you made it this far, make sure to like and subscribe. We're real close to 2,000 subs, and I don't know what I'm looking to hit by the end of the year, to be fair. Maybe 4K by the end of the year. That's ambitious, but I think we can do it together. Y'all have a good one. See you next week.